What's up guys, Shane Starnes here with Droid Monitor X. This is my full review of the LG G7 after 3 months. Let's go ahead and get started. First up, let's talk about the design. Now, LG has been pretty innovative in the past with their design. They were one of the first to have the power button on the rear of the phone. In fact, that has kind of been their design language for the past several years. They were also one of the very first to bring a modular design phone to the market. Here with the LG G7, we see that LG is playing it safe. If you're into the design language of the LG V30, you're going to find the exact same design in the LG G7, just a little bit smaller. I, for one, was a big fan of the V30's design, so I love the design of the G7. We've got an all-glass front and an all-glass back with metal surrounding the sides. The back glass is curved slightly on either edge, making it super easy to grip and hold in the hand. Normally, glass backs make your phone super slick, but for some reason, the glass back on the G7 is not all that slippery and is pretty easy to hold. That being said, it is still very prone to scratching and is a fingerprint magnet. You'll want to be sure to cover that back with a slick wraps. Introducing the all-new transparent series by Slick Wraps. Do you love how the inside of your device looks but don't want to risk the chance of removing the back and having something go wrong? Then Slick Wraps' new transparent series is the wrap for you. The transparent series accurately details the inside of your device without having to remove anything from your phone. These wraps feature a back-only design and go on with a bubble-free application. I'm currently rocking one on my Galaxy S9 and it has to be one of my favorite slick wraps of all time. Be sure to hit up the link in the description to grab your wrap today. The only real design changes in this device is that we no longer have the rear placement of the power button integrated with the fingerprint scanner. Instead, we find the power button on the right-hand side of the display, and then there's also a Google Assistant dedicated button about where the Bixby button is on the Galaxy S9. On the bottom of the phone, you will find a single bottom firing speaker and a 3.5mm headphone jack, and you'll also find the volume rocker right there next to the Google Assistant button on the left side of the phone. The top of the phone is where you'll find your SIM card slot, and you've also got an SD card slot there as well. On the back of the phone, you'll find that dual lens camera setup with the standard lens and wide angle lens. Below the camera is where you'll find that perfectly placed fingerprint scanner. While LG has decided to play it safe with this design, I do like the design and I think it matches up to other phones on the market. Next up, we'll take a look at the display. The LG G7 is rocking a 6.1-inch IPS LCD display. We get a 3120 by 1440 resolution. The display is super vibrant and colorful and gets very bright. It gets up to 1000 nits of brightness. You can actually boost the brightness with the boost toggle, which is especially useful when you are outdoors on a sunny day. The LG G7 does incorporate a notch into the display, and while I am personally not a big fan of display notches, I have to say that LG has done a pretty good job of implementing the notch. In fact, they're calling this their secondary display. You can choose to have the notch fully functional, or you can disable the notch altogether. When consuming media on the display, content's not going to wrap around the notch like we see on the iPhone X. Instead, it's going to look and flow naturally. My personal preference here is to just make the background around the notch black, which kind of camouflages the notch and makes it look like a normal notification bar. Even with the notch, I think that this is one of the best displays on the market. LG always does an incredible job with their displays, and the G7 display is no different. As far as performance is concerned, the LG G7 is a performance powerhouse. This is pretty much the best you can get in terms of a 2018 flagship device. It has a Snapdragon 845 processor and a 4GB of RAM variant with 64GB of onboard storage and a 6GB of RAM with 128GB of onboard storage. LG sent me the version with 4GB of RAM. The G7 easily holds up to other phones in the price range like the S9 and S9 Plus and the iPhone X when it comes to speed and performance. Animations going from screen to screen are buttery smooth, application load times are incredibly fast, and I found no issues with multitasking, shutting down applications and opening them back up. Overall, I felt that the G7 was super fast and snappy, and it was able to handle just about any task that I was able to throw at it. When it comes to battery life on the LG G7, I found that battery life is not the strongest feature on this device. The LG G7 comes with a 3000 milliamp hour battery, which in my experience was good for about 4 to 4.5 hours of screen on time, and I did find myself needing to recharge the phone towards the end of the day. If you do find yourself needing to recharge the battery before the day is out, the good news is that it does support Qualcomm's Quick Charge 4.0. You should be able to get the first 50% of your battery charged within 30 minutes or so, and you're also able to wirelessly charge thanks to that glass back and wireless charging. Next up, we'll talk about cameras. With the G7, we do get an upgraded front-facing selfie camera that is now upgraded to 8 megapixels. This really does make for a much sharper image coming out of the front-facing camera. We also have a portrait mode with the G7, which is going to give you that professional blurred background look. This just gives you more options for the perfect selfie. When it comes to the rear camera setup, you do have two 16 megapixel shooters. The main lens is f1.6 aperture, while the secondary lens is f1.9 aperture. Both lenses allow for an incredible amount of light to come into the photos, eliminating grain and noise. That secondary lens is also a wide angle lens with a 107-degree field of view. The main shooter does include optical image stabilization, which means you won't have to have a perfectly steady hand to get images with no image blur. This is one feature that the wide angle lens is missing. Images taken with this camera were super sharp with lots of color and detail, and even shots taken in lower light situations turned out really crisp and clear with limited noise and grain. With the G7, LG has put a huge emphasis on the sound quality coming from this phone, whether that be from the speaker itself or from the 3.5mm headphone jack. If you're using headphones, the G7 does feature LG's signature quad DAC, which we found on other phones in the past. This really does boost the sound performance going to the headphones. Whether you're using high quality headphones or lower quality headphones, you're gonna get incredible sound out of that 3.5mm headphone jack. The single bottom firing speaker on the G7 sounds incredible, and you can tell that LG has put a lot of thought and effort into making this speaker sound as good as possible. They're using the inside of the phone as a resonance chamber to amplify the sound coming out of that one single speaker. This works best when you put the phone in a hollow container, say a cup holder, or if you just set it on a flat surface like your desk. You're going to notice that the sound coming out of the speaker is amplified. This makes the speaker much louder than normal without adding any distortion. Even with lots of bass, you're gonna find that this speaker sounds great. Of course, the G7 includes all the other features that you would come to expect from a flagship device, like IP68 dust and water resistance, wireless charging, and a micro SD card slot. When it comes to software on the G7, we get a pretty bloat-free experience of Android 8.0. Overall, I'm pretty happy with the software experience on the LG G7, as it is pretty clean and it's fluid and snappy. In my opinion, the G7 is one of the most overlooked phones of 2018. It's easily one of my top 5 devices so far this year. What are your thoughts on the LG G7? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like the video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel for more content like this in the future. You can find more of me at droidmodderx.com. Follow me on Twitter at droidmodderx. Thanks guys for watching. Be blessed. I'll see you in the next one.